It looks like starseed tanning in dirt. It smells like hot stone and tall grass. It tastes like spiced fruit, sweet and hot. It feels like solar winds and solar chimes. It sounds like two brothers chasing glass frogs in the sun. They knew to stay away from the wells, but they were just kids, and they wanted to know. They threw in dirt, and stone, and key fruit, and starseed, watching as they collapsed. The gravity wells would swallow up anything. Glass, and mud, and silver, wind, heat, pulsar radiation. And when his brother wasn't watching, Mithrix would throw in worms. But only when he wasn't watching. You see, his brother loved worms. It would make him sad. But Mithrix didn't care much about worms. He was just curious. But one time, his brother was watching, and his brother loved worms. This relic tells a story, but it is not a fairy tale. It's a tragedy. A story of betrayal, regret, and sorrow. A story of two. Okay. How the hell do you know that? After playing Risk of Rain for something odd hours, you probably started to question yourself. Who am I? Why do I fight this Mithrix guy? Am I the same guy from the first game? After I looked through the logs found within the games, I found that there is actually a cohesive story behind the insane clusterfuck that is Risk of Rain. I decided to create this video to show you my personal understanding of the main story by going through the different logs and slowly piecing together the narrative. This video does contain spoilers, so I would recommend you defeat the final bosses of both games first. This video will explain who Providence and Mithrix are, and what their significance is within the story. It will tell who you as the player are, and the consequences of your actions within the games. So sit back and enjoy. This is the story of Risk of Rain. We begin on a planet known as Petrichor 5, where the gameplay of Risk of Rain takes place. It is unknown how Mithrix and Providence were created or born, but it is not necessary in understanding the story. These two brothers were gods, or at least higher beings. Mithrix begins to understand reality and how to create from it. It is not specified if the brothers created the planet of Petrichor 5, but it was mentioned that this planet was not noted on any known star maps. Regardless of the planet's creation, we start by Mithrix learning about the 4 building blocks of the universe, and he teaches his brother Providence how to utilize it.
I've begun to understand our universe, the compounds that drive reality here. I've prepared a demonstration. Come look, brother. Now, look here. It's got presence and weight, round, with no features, no orientation. It is mass. Almost everything here is mass. Mass is boring, but required. We can take mass and shape it to form. Features, angles, and intent. Look at the planarity of the surfaces. This is design. I love design. Now, a volatile one, a lifeline, blood. Sharp, yet radiant. Blood is heat. This is my blood, but there is plenty of blood in this universe. Now be gentle. Look closely here. Do you see it? Almost invisible. A thin film. Frail. It is not in this reality, but an adjacent one. I've heard you discuss this, something you innately understood. What you describe as soul. Don't you love soul? Do you understand? It's your turn, brother. I've simply found the compounds. It is your hands that must craft value from them.
Mithrix learns that he loves design, and so Mithrix designed and Providence created. The Bulwark's Ambry was created for Providence to build whatever he wanted, and Providence then created the artifacts. The brothers then went on to creating or designing the planet of Petrichor 5. Mithrix talks about his vision for the design of the planet, leading me to believe that the brothers were the one to create it, though it is just as likely that the brothers simply shaped it to their desires.
Rings. What for? A triangle is much more of a beautiful design. Look and observe. 3 points in 3 dimensions. No redundancies. Perfectly defined. We will use triangles. Trees. Yes. Trees are beautiful. I agree. We will have many trees.
The brothers then decided to create the first beings of the planet, the Golems, or as they named them, the Guardians. Mithrix designed the first of these Guardians for Providence to construct. However, Providence noted that this design lacked soul, and Providence loved soul. So Providence detoured from Mithrix's design and created Aurelianite, the Titanic Gold Weaver. But this decision did not make Mithrix very happy.
Brother, what is this? Why is it misshapen and weak? Is there an error in my design? Guardian, come to me. Allow me to see your construction. So I see. These are not the correct ratios. This is no minor error, brother. You have purposely deviated from the design. For what purpose have you done this? You cannot weave a construct for such an abundance of soul. You know it is too unstable, that it is too unpredictable and too frail. I have told you this, and yet you have wasted the materials I have gathered, and exhausted your own strength to fabricate this miscreation. To what benefit? At its best, it could be no more than an inferior servant. It is deficient in the compounds that were to give it fortitude and strength. At its worst, it will betray us. You have created the first being of this world which threatens us. We cannot keep it here. Attempting to destroy it will risk its retaliation. I will prepare one of the vaults for it to be sealed away, while it is still young and naive. What a foolish mistake you have made, brother. I expect you to return the design to me. I cannot allow you to build another construct with so much power and such little control. I will build the rest of our Guardians. By my hand, they will be weak, but they will at least be loyal. Go home. I will deal with this creature. We can discuss a better project for you when I return.
Mithrix sealed Aurelianite away in the Gilded Coast, a prison made of gold. Mithrix saw soul as frail and unstable, so he saw beings of soul as lesser than him, unable to be controlled. Mithrix then began to teach Providence his vision and demonstrated his creation of the golems, known as the first of the lunar chimeras.
Your completions of my designs are uneasy, brother. Let me show you their purpose. We begin with stone, silver, and fire. Take note of the ratios. High speed. Speed is war. Twin cannons with twin exhausts. We stream their exhausts for validity. Quadrupeds are easier and more stable. We maintain that. And that, dear brother, is it. No dance, no song. These Guardians do not need soul.
But Providence loved soul. Within these logs, a being referred to as she, or her, visits and leaves Petrichor 5. The knowledge of other beings inspires Mithrix to seek out those of similar or greater power, and to leave Petrichor 5 behind. But to Providence, he realized there may be planets out there that are less fortunate than that of the two brothers. Providence wished to seek out dying planets and to save the inhabitants by bringing them back. Mithrix disagreed, believing that if those beings were not strong enough to save themselves, then they were beneath him and not worth saving. So Providence then began to despise Mithrix because of his lack of empathy. Mithrix was undeterred, believing that Providence would eventually share his vision of saving higher beings. And so the two brothers began working together to create the gates, which we refer to as the teleporters.
My brother, it is done. Come, see. Look to the moon. The first beacon shines brightly on the other side. There was no gap in its sequence. It has travelled instantaneously. We can cross the Dark Sea without succumbing to its sickness if we simply do not travel through it at all. Is it not a brilliant light of hope? Only your hands could have realized my design, brother. I feel truly now that there is no obstacle, nor force we cannot overcome together. With my designs and your constructions. While it pains me to see your heart still torn for the doomed, we are not among them. There is an entire cosmos for us. We can escape this planet, our prison. If your heart truly yearns to save, then surely more of our kind waits among the other worlds, trapped by the Dark Sea. And to them, we can offer the gates. When next she visits our world, I must ask her to take a gate with her, perhaps dozens. You should be celebrating with me, brother. And yet, I see your somber gaze will not lift. Please, take the gate. Step foot on another world. Reap the rewards of your toil. Prove to the universe that you are free. I cannot bear to see you in such a pitiful mood on such a joyous occasion. If you insist, brother, I will go first. Forget about those creatures, and do not dawdle. I want to see joy on your face.
But Providence's sorrow was not for the dying planets. These lesser beings were those made of soul, and Providence knew that saving these lesser beings would cause Mithrix to become angry. And so, Providence betrayed Mithrix. He locked the way back through the teleporter, stranding Mithrix on Petrichor V's moon, hoping to keep him there for as long as Providence lived. Using the gates, Providence travelled to distant planets, bringing inhabitants back to Petrichor V. Each of these beings saw Providence as a saviour. They celebrated him and created great temples and gardens to thank Providence for his compassion. The Providence did not save them for them, but for his own peace of mind, and his own love of soul. The Elder Lemurian log states, "Saved by the hero. Our paradise was one of sprawling tunnels and rich caves. Making our home in the depths of paradise, we began constructing a great civilization. The elders constructed elaborate living quarters, decorated with tetrafoil and glass baubles, and our little ones began charting paths through the tunnels. The hero was honoured for his kindness, and we constructed a great temple on Paradise's surface in his honour. Song and dance rang out through the tunnels for weeks to come, in celebration for our salvation." This temple is known as the Temple of the Elders, which is a level found in Risk of Rain 1. Within the Grove Tender's log, it talks from the perspective of a grove tender talking to his wisps about the creation of their garden, known as the Scorch Acres, which is also a level found in Risk of Rain 2. "Gather, little ones. All have done excellent jobs tending to our garden. I could not be more proud. Now, we shall take a break. I believe a story would satisfy your curiosities, Now, which story to recount? The story of our garden? Of course. Very well, I shall begin. This planet is a paradise, gifted to us by our hero. Our hero saved my ancestors, and many others, from death, giving us a new place to call home. Out of gratitude, my ancestors constructed an elaborate garden for our hero, decorated with fruit trees, mercury blossoms, and other exotic plants favoured by our hero. Sadly, our hero never seemed to notice our efforts, so we toiled to make our garden the most beautiful garden amongst the stars, so we may repay our hero for his compassion. Do you understand? He loves soul. He loves you. That is why we made you. To this day, my kind, and you, little ones, work to perfect our home. Now, I believe it is time to return to work. Come, little ones, let us tend to our garden." We learn that the imps invaded from a dimension called the Red Plane to steal an unstated artifact, but they somehow became trapped in this dimension by Providence. Within the imp log, it talks about how most were killed by Providence, and how the remaining survivors must seek refuge in another dimension known as the in-between space, since they cannot make it back to the Red Plane. Providence could have trapped the invading imps just to kill them all, or potentially Providence did this as a way of preventing any further invasions by the imps. Either way, it was to keep the planet safe. The imp log reads, "Ever since we arrived, there has been no shortage of nightmares for our party. Long nights and unnaturally regular eclipses have made sunlight scarce, and we must,
appallingly, resort to risking our lives hunting and devouring the local fauna like lowly beasts. While the air is breathable, it is no blessing. We've been unable to escape the foul smell that we can only now assume is a part of the atmosphere on this world. Worst of all, attempts to return through the portal have been unsuccessful in our weakened state. It takes considerable effort to enter the between space, and we lack the strength to stay there long enough to cross the membrane. We are stranded. And then there is the master of this world. Curiously, it is in his presence that we find ourselves most weakened, and when he senses us, he wastes no time in his approach. We've attempted to kill him once in the hopes of restoring our access to the portal, and it ended in such disaster that it became clear that there could not be a second attempt. If not for our ability to briefly dive into the between space to escape our skirmishes, we would surely all be butchered. Whenever we observe him unnoticed, he stands in the open, transfixed by the moon. I find some humor in that. Curse this place, and curse its master. May we find a way to send word to the homeworld of our plight, and may the great Emperor deign to come forth and grant this deity a swift death.
The Great Emperor being the Imp Overlord. Even the original Imp log from Risk of Rain 1 states, "Unlike the other fauna on this planet, the Black Imp is aggressive to all other species. Is the Imp also stranded here?" Mithrix watched Providence's actions from the moon and was disgusted. He believed that these lesser beings were beneath Mithrix's kind and were not worth saving. Only those equal or greater than himself were worth the effort of saving, and so Mithrix began his plan to overthrow his brother and to take back Petrichor 5 under his rule.
A wretched carnival. They were doomed for good reason. Doomed people of Ophelia, lost in a fanatic worship of parasitic influences. Lemurians, destined to a dead planet, picked clean. Shitted beasts, automations of death. Why do you bring them home? They were not meant to survive. I have watched you for ages, from my dead rock, and every century you disgust me with vanity. You invite vermin into your home. Wretches, rats, monsters, creatures without restraint, each and every one planet killers. And yet, you entertain them as guests, like children requiring saving and protection. She should have died for me. Her gift was wasted on you. And when will we open discussion, dear brother, of all your thin lies? Why do you forbid your guests to leave? To pilot? Why do you fashion great walls and gates? Why do you weave constructs of destruction, if your role is protection? They are entries in your collection. You slaver, gatekeeper, hoarder. Your death is fated. When you die, and you will die, I will be ready. I have been patient for millennia. That planet is mine.
It is mentioned that the being known as She had returned to Petrichor 5 and had since died. It mentions that she had sacrificed herself and passed on a gift to Providence. What this gift is, as of now, we do not know, but what we do know is that the inhabitants of Petrichor 5 are unaware of this sacrifice, and that Mithrix resents Providence for receiving it instead of him. This gift could have been a way of travelling through space without the need of gates, or potentially a way of bringing inhabitants back to Petrichor 5. However, knowing what this gift is not important to the overall story. Back to Mithrix's plan, he began construction of the other lunar chimeras, taking inspiration from the inhabitants Providence brought back to the planet, inspiration from the very vermin he hated. He created the lunar wisps, taking inspiration from the greater wisps and the clay templars.
Soul-driven, of course, as with all vermin. Let us begin with fire. Free axis of movement, wonderful design. I will highlight that. Slow acceleration, that can be improved. Speed is war. Feeble combat skills, treatable. Those Templars may be of inspiration.
It is not explicitly stated, but the lunar wisps could also take inspiration from the wandering vagrants, since both shoot a similar homing projectile attack. Following that, when Mithrix created the lunar exploder, he could have also taken inspiration from the mini mushroom circle of fire, seeing as they both have similar effects, though these could have no correlation and could just be a gameplay design. Mithrix then creates the lunar items, and scatters them across Petrichor 5 for the lesser beings to find, to then become influenced by him and to become Mithrix's servant. To try and stop Mithrix's control on the inhabitants, Providence created the cleansing pools, warning the inhabitants about Mithrix's power, and transforming the lunar items into pearls.
His influence is dark. I do not blame you for your curiosity, but cleanse yourself of it immediately. It will ruin you and all you care about. Oh, that is strange. That is unlike the other pearls. Do not be mistaken. Its influence is still dark, despite how beautiful your pearl is. It is not from a place of kindness. It cannot be.
Mithrix was outraged that Providence found another way to alter his creations, so Mithrix then created the Obelisk, a gate that not even Providence could change. This gate would take his followers to a safe haven while Mithrix enacted his plan of revenge. This haven is known as a moment whole, requiring the beads of fealty to be allowed entry.
It is sealed. You do not have the skill to release this. It is a lock of my design. My design. It will not break, and it will not yield. The alignment of the gate cannot be changed by one such as you. It will persist as long as my treacherous brother lives. I have wasted my time in teaching you to operate it. A lock. My lock. Crafted by the hands of my betrayer. He has exploited and twisted my treasured designs into mockeries. My guardians that he continues to weave with willful volatility. My sentinels that he encumbers by his self-indulgent adornments and alterations. My gates through which vermin like you ride to our infested home. Vermin like you. Oblivious to her sacrifice, as you all cowered from the radiant corpse that saved you. And now, in the greatest mockery he could devise, he has twice used my own creations to erase me. My heart cannot bear this. My blood boils anew, and I will no longer be able to temper it. Your final task is rescinded. You have served me well. You have been my hands where I cannot reach, my feet where I cannot stride, my eyes where I cannot see, and I have seen enough. Be pleased that I hold loyalty above all else. When you so choose, the beads of your oath will guide you to my vault. Reach out to the monolith while clutching them. Do not let go. You will find yourself at peace, and more importantly, my servant, in a realm overlooked by the desire of my coming reprisal.
The beads of fealty themselves were not special. Rather, they were a symbol of devotion to Mithrix. Those that clutched the beads were considered traitors to Providence, and so were swiftly killed. Reading the log for the beads, we learn that they became somewhat of a taboo within the inhabitants of Petrichor 5. Scavengers, in their nature, like to collect baubles and trinkets, so it makes sense that the scavengers would ignore this taboo and collect these beads despite Providence's warning. They became the few remaining inhabitants to become influenced by Mithrix, which is probably why we can find them within a moment whole. The master of this world is a benevolent protector, our saviour. Despite the natures of its various inhabitants, he has made a peaceful place here. Peace comes at a cost, of course. Some things are strictly forbidden. Above all, there is one item that cannot be tolerated. To possess it is to surely perish. A strange, heavy, and deeply entrancing set of beads that seem to speak with whoever holds them. To discover them among one's community is to create a dark, rippling panic. It is not long after they are found that Providence, the mighty protector, appears in a thunderous instant to pursue their owner and solemnly take a life he swore to defend. It is no physical property of the beads themselves which provoke such a drastic response, but instead what they represent. They are a symbol, and to carry them is a dark promise to undo the world. To cast to oblivion all the people who find their final place here, all in exchange for a doomed return to a ruinous way. The elusive, sinister intelligence with whom these beads represent a pact seems only known to the bearer and to Providence himself. One thing, however, is known to anyone who borne witness to these beads. A cruel, cackling laughter that erupts as blood and coins of favour are spilled, abruptly silenced as the beads are destroyed. Where they come from isn't known, but should you encounter these beads, you must leave them far, far behind. Never look back. Deep into space, we find our solar system. Our home planet, Earth, is very technologically advanced, capable of creating giant spacecrafts able to travel deep into space. The UES Contact Light is a transport vessel known as a bulk freighter, carrying cargo and passengers to other planets within our solar system. This ship is the one we start on within the gameplay of Risk of Rain 1. By reading the shipping details, or item descriptions, of Risk of Rain 1, we can see that the cargo is scheduled to be delivered to each of the planets within our solar system. By reading the item log for the gasoline item in Risk of Rain 2, we can see that the ship was heading towards the Procon system, either for a pit stop or just passing through, to then head back to our solar system. During the ship's travel, the contact light was requested to take a detour through an unknown star system. The identity of who requested the detour was redacted from the black box data. It is unknown who was behind this request, but I have a theory that this detour was sent out by none other than Mithrix himself. The commencement log reads about a monologue from Mithrix planning to destroy Earth.
Have you forgotten that those gates are my design? You would not know, because you do not look up. You bend knees only for ants and vermin, but I have been working on a grander design, a greater gate to travel greater seas. What if I met you on one of those extinct planets? What if I caused the calamities you strive to avoid? What if I reaped destruction? What would you do then? I know the planet you trail, of water and dirt. You fear their stability, that they will consume themselves. Maybe I will go there first.
The contact light arrives at Petrichor 5, and xenoarchaeologists and engineers are sent down to the surface to study the planet. They find a teleporter, and they bring it on board, hoping to find a matching pair. This could have been what Mithrix wanted, for the contact light to take the teleporter to Earth, for Mithrix to use the teleporter, and then to destroy the Earth's inhabitants, all to spite his brother Providence. Regardless of who sent out this detour, the contact light took some of the inhabitants of Petrichor 5 on board to study them and to perform experiments. The coordinates of Petrichor 5 was also charted for future visits. Early during the expedition of Petrichor 5, Providence noticed the contact light and teleported on board via the teleporter they brought upon the ship. This expedition was disturbing the peace of Petrichor 5, and so Providence attempted to destroy the contact light, causing it to crash upon the planet. Escape pods were deployed, and most of the cargo spilled out onto the planet below.
Day 5 of Detour as requested through Please disregard if on standard frequency. It is very lonely out here. Moving through unknown system. The planet is beautiful, with auroras and a stunning landscape. I am charting coordinates for future visits. Incredible! The eclipse of the system's moon. It is a beautiful sight. Both the engineers and the xenoarchaeologists seemed hopeful. We may find a matching pair. Contact light SOS! Contact light SOS! Unknown hostile is boarded. Attacking crew on board. Requesting assistance SOS. Contact light SOS. I have sealed off the bridge for my own safety. I am transmitting in hopes of assistance. Contact light SOS. Contact light SOS. Jettisoning as many escape pods as possible. Attack damaged cargo base. Cargo is spilling into space. SOS. Contact light SOS. 43% of escape pods have launched. He's killing everyone. Requesting assistance. SOS. SOS. Contact light SOS. He's heading to the bridge. 56% of escape pods have launched. I fear for my own safety, but not all surviving passengers have evacuated. SOS. Contact light SOS. I can hear him coming. Requesting assistance. SOS.
With the help of Petrichor 5's inhabitants, Providence sought out and killed all remaining survivors. All except one. You, the player, survived. Thus begins the start of Risk of Rain 1. We learn through reading the Rusted Key item log that the cargo mysteriously can be opened using enough money, and so using the various chests that fell down to the planet, you fight your way around Petrichor 5, using the teleporters to travel, trying to find a way home. In Risk of Rain 2, we learn of a character known as Kurskan the Heretic. I will not talk about the lore behind Kurskan, but it should be noticed that during the events of Risk of Rain 1, she attempted to escape Petrichor 5 using the contact light, and she repaired it to the point where it could fly again, though she was unfortunately shattered by Providence before she got the chance to leave. Back to the story of Risk of Rain 1. You eventually reach the contact light, and you attempt to leave Petrichor 5, but you are interrupted by Providence, who attempts to kill you. With all your equipment you have found along the way, you manage to overpower Providence and you defeat him. You then escape Petrichor 5 using the contact light. Safe, but forever changed by the events that just took place. And thus ends the story of Risk of Rain 1. I recognized him from the security footage. He was the one who blew the cargo hatches open. He was the one who killed everyone. Providence, as I came to call him, moved faster and with more purpose than anything else I've seen on this planet. He must command great power, for he seemed to easily control 2 great gilded worms of a species similar to the magma worm. Is he able to command everyone on this planet? I don't know his purpose, or his reasoning, but he did not give me a choice. I had to kill him. So why do I feel like I've made a terrible mistake? Why did we have a teleporter from this planet in our cargo hold? An unspecified amount of time later, a retired captain is rehired for one last rescue mission as a response to the contact light's distress signal. However, the captain is suspicious that this is not truly a rescue mission, as the ship assigned to the task is the UES Safe Travels, which is not actually a rescue ship. Because of this, the captain requests that the ship be stocked with various different supplies as a precaution.
A rescue mission?
The old man leaned forward, scanning the document slid over his desk. His eyes paused on a collection of words near the bottom. UES, contact light. Yes. He continued to read the document. The Safe Travels, for a rescue mission. As one of the few surviving captains of the old colony ships, he knew all the designations by memory, and the Safe Travels was not a rescue ship.
Any ornaments?
No.
We'll have to fix that.
With a sigh, he stood up. His prosthetics tugged at his joints. Despite being lighter than his original limbs, they always felt heavy.
And let me guess, top secret, right?
Yes. He gave out another sigh. They're always top secret. But a small smile crept upon his face. He glanced up to his old radio helmet. He's been bored in retirement anyways. Other crew are also hired for this rescue mission, such as the Commando, Huntress, Mercenary, Loader, and Engineer. The Bandit character managed to sneak on board just before takeoff, and is only there to try and steal relics from the contact light. The maintenance crew modified a multi-unit, causing it to go rogue, and Rex is a hydroponics machine that also goes rogue due to its programming, though Rex is remotely shut down before it can cause any trouble. It should be mentioned that none of these characters are the same characters from Risk of Rain 1, despite their similar appearances. Eventually, the Safe Travels arrive at Petrichor 5. There is no sign of the contact light, but the distress signal talks about the various inhabitants attacking the crew during the events of Risk of Rain 1. The captain decides to send down the crew anyway, and thus begins the start of Risk of Rain 2. After landing on the planet, the inhabitants immediately began attacking the crew. The situation quickly escalated, and within the first 24 hours, major casualties and injuries were sustained.
Captain's log. Date. The time. Galactic Standard. Several shuttles have been dispatched and landed on the planet. We've also deployed some drop pods for the less social of our crew members. And well, I have considered joining them on the planet to oversee operations and to manage the chain of command. This has been my first deployment in many years. I'm not going to sit back and rot on the bridge like some old hardware. That said, getting back on topic, the shuttles landed in a mountainous region, along some cliffs. While disembarking and setting up a rally point, we came under attack from local fauna just as reports detailed. The situation quickly escalated, and within the first 24 hours we have sustained major casualties and injuries. Thankfully the ammunition and armaments I requested were granted by the UES, as more of our crew have reported back that all outer life encountered thus far has been hostile. Some of our ground forces have also reported strange and irregular natural phenomenon.
The old man gazes out of the window of his cabin, the moon shining in the night sky.
What a strange planet. This will certainly make a good story.
The player character is one of the crew members who land on the planet from the drop pods, and as soon as you leave, the inhabitants immediately start attacking you, Much like the first game, the player collects different items and takes the teleporters around Petrichor 5 to try and find a way off this planet. During your travels, you might find an altar of gold, allowing a gold portal to appear. This portal will take you to the Gilded Coast, where Aurelianite lies. You free him from his prison, defeat him in battle, and then he joins you in your quest so that he may take revenge upon his masters that imprisoned him many years ago. You may discover the Bazaar Between Time, owned by a mysterious glass newt, though sadly almost nothing is known about the newts as of yet, so there is not much lore to talk about. It should be mentioned that they may be related to the glass frogs which are talked about within the Purity item log. Below the Bazaar Between Time, you can find a portal which leads to the Void Fields. The Void Fields are somewhat of an interdimensional prison located at the end of time. Prisoners of the Void Fields are broken down into a kind of juice, or code, and are then stored within a type of database prison cell. The Void Fields are maintained by the Void Reavers. Not much is known about the Void Reavers, but it seems like their purpose is to act as interdimensional police. They capture powerful beings or relics and store them in the Void Fields for safekeeping. The reasoning behind this is unknown as of yet. The cells were for dangerous creatures. The cells were for rare, powerful relics of exponential strength. The cells were for ancient automata of war. The cells were for scientists and inventors and explorers. The cells were for gods. The cells were for everything. As you progress to higher and higher stages, the Void Reavers will appear to try and detain you as you have become one of these powerful beings. Killing a Void Reaver will cause a black hole effect which can instantly kill the player and all other enemies surrounding it. This black hole sends all entities to the prison cells within the Void Fields. Dying to a Void Reaver will display the following message: "You have been detained. Await your sentence at the end of time." Whether you meant to or not, you also managed to free Acrid, who was apparently detained by the Void Reavers at an unknown time period, supposedly because of Acrid's dangerous and powerful poisonous abilities. Acrid is also the only character in the series that is the same character as in the first game. I have a small theory that these Void Reavers tried to invade the Bazaar Between Time to detain the Glass Newt, as he is a powerful being, but he managed to fight them off, indicated by the many corpses of Void Reavers scattered around the portal. The Newt also sells the Artificer. The Artificer was sent out on a quest to find a way into a moment hole, but before they could do so, they were suspended in time by the Newt, just like the Void Reavers down below. Unfortunately, I will not be discussing the lore behind the Artificer, as there is a lot to cover, and it is unnecessary in understanding the overall story, though I will gladly create a follow-up video to discuss the Artificer in more detail. Eventually, you reach the Primordial Teleporter, and you teleport to the moon, where Mithrix awaits. You find a rescue shuttle that had landed on the moon before you arrived, trapped inside a force field by Mithrix. My theory of why it is trapped within this force field is so that Mithrix can take the ship and fly to Earth to destroy it, or even just to fly back down to Petrichor 5 to rule it now that Providence is dead. However, there is no evidence for either of these claims. Using the various items you have found along the way, you fight and defeat Mithrix and free the shuttle trapped within the force field. As a last-ditch attempt, Mithrix begins to try to destroy the moon to kill you before you can escape, but you take off before he gets the chance. Void Reavers begin invading the moon to try to capture you, as you have now become a wanted powerful being. To try and detain you, and to prevent the moon from being destroyed, the Void Reavers capture the entirety of the moon, but you manage to narrowly escape using the rescue shuttle, and you finally escape the planet of Petrichor 5, once again, forever changed by your journey. And thus ends the story of Risk of Rain 2, and the story of Risk of Rain as a whole. The pattern tells many things. The keys function to unlock a lost trove of abandoned treasure. The key's creators, two brothers, one composed of ambition and the other compassion. The key's hopes, infused into the key, deep within its core, is a memory of better times and the hope that one day, perhaps things could be better again. The key's reality? The bitter realization that such a reality exists only in the past. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Once again, this is my interpretation of the law of Risk of Rain, so it is very possible I have made some mistakes while making this. If I have made any mistakes, or if you have any questions about the law, please leave a comment down below. I am a very small YouTuber, so I will gladly read and reply to all questions you have for me. There are still many things I haven't talked about, such as the lore on the various inhabitants and stages of Petrichor 5, the lore behind the Artificer and the Heretic, or even lore about something specific, like the followers of Nuka-Hana. If you would like to see a video on those topics, please let me know. Don't forget to like and share this video if you enjoyed it, or if you disliked it, please leave a comment to let me know why. Thank you again very much for watching. I hope to see you all again in a future video.